Well, President-elect Trump makes statements which regularly steer emotional reactions in Ukraine, in the United States and other parts of the world. We are used to that. But what remains to be seen is the specific policy that he will be implementing to end the war in Ukraine. And the fact that he has already spoken twice with Zelensky, once on the phone following his victory in elections, and then in Paris with President Macron being in the middle. It's a good sign. It's important that they speak, I mean, Zelensky and Trump. So, yeah, there will be many sensitive moments. There will be many emotional moments. But what is certain is that Zelensky will be doing everything he can in order not to allow any peace settlement to come at the expense of Ukraine. But most importantly is that there is no answer to how to make Putin negotiate in good faith under these circumstances. And this is what President Trump should primarily address, because without, pacifying Putin, you simply cannot end this war. The key to peace is not in Kiev; it's in Moscow.
So, when Russia claims a territory, of course, and of course it is Ukrainian territory under all international law as well, there is an impasse on that. And I appreciate what you said about the Ukraine can never accept the legal change of that ownership of that sovereign land as well. But in terms of the other issues about getting towards some form of peace deal, how does it fit in with NATO as well? You have spent a lot of time speaking to people like Mark Rutte about the role that Ukraine can play in association with NATO or in NATO as well. In fact, I was in, obviously, Vilnius, and this whole issue came up again with Mr. Zelensky as well. Will Ukraine drop the aspiration for NATO membership if it has NATO protections?
Well, from what I've seen so far and from what I've heard so far, in Washington, in London, and other capitals, of course, there are politicians who believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a bargaining chip that is easy to sell to Russia and get something in return. And it's very unfortunate that this logic prevails for a very simple reason, because membership, putting membership in NATO for Ukraine on hold can theoretically help end the fighting and establish a ceasefire, but it will not prevent the second Russia-Ukraine war from happening. This is the problem. The only way to make sure that this war stops and never comes back again at even larger scale is actually to get Ukraine in NATO. And this is the logic that should prevail. I know that we all know that there are alternatives being considered called security guarantees, but the issue with them is that most of them, if not all of them, have already been granted to Ukraine as part of the security commitments signed with a number of countries, including the United Kingdom, the United States, and others.
Right.
So, yeah, it's nice to chat, to dwell on NATO membership. It's a buzzing issue.
Right.
But when serious people will sit down, they will realize that this is the only way forward.
Mr. Kuleba, just quickly, we had these comments from Mark Rutte the other day talking about the fact that Putin wants to wipe Ukraine off the map and could come after other parts of Europe next. But does Syria test that narrative about the ability of Russia to do so, given that in the past it had such a strong hand for decades, really, in Syria, but the events that have transpired suggest that Russia couldn't play the same game in Syria? What threat does he pose to Europe then?
Russia will cross the border of the European Union if Ukraine fails. Putin today has no strength and power to fight multiple wars, and Syria is the manifestation of that. But he has resources to fight one war per time, and this is why I've said what I said. If Ukraine fails, war will come to the streets of European cities. I have no doubts to that. I know I may sound like a panicking Ukrainian, but this is not the case. I just understand how Putin thinks.